If it works, it works. You're not hurting anybody. These things can really reduce sleep latency and improve the quality of your sleep.
Hi, I'm Jeremiah. Welcome to the Wake Up Call podcast, where we talk all things sleep, wellness, and health. The Wake Up Call podcast is brought to you by Polysleep, the best memory foam mattress in Canada. Welcome to the Wake Up Call. I'm your host, Jeremiah Curvers, and I am joined today by Dr. Patrick Owen for our part 2. Dr. Patrick Owen is specialized in human nutrition, and he studied ancestral health for quite a long time. He also has a tremendous experience when it comes to, obviously, nutrition and sleep. And today what we want to discuss with you about is how can you hack, or how do you have some tips and tricks to really improve your sleep? That doesn't involve any medication or anything that would require you to consult your doctor, but things that really you can apply in your day-to-day that will drastically improve your quality and hopefully quantity of sleep. So, Dr. Patrick Owen, thank you so much for joining me today again.
Hello again. That was a huge pleasure.
So let's jump right into it.
Yes.
My first question would be, what is the foundation? What is the baseline you need to even think about implementing those hacks?
You need sleep consistency. As we mentioned time and again, sleep is when you are at your most vulnerable, and your brain was designed as a prediction machine. So if you have a routine to your sleep architecture, you are half the way there. So the number one thing that everyone can do starting tonight is wake up at the same time every day, even on weekends, no snooze. You'll be miserable for the first week. Try not to nap. You're going to force your brain, anchor it into saying, hey, I'm getting up at the same time every day. You got to finish doing what you got to do in that time. So that's the foundation, is sleep consistency. And that's 100% behavior.
That is definitely driven by behavior. And now there's, I would call them multiple vertical that can be an upward spiral or a downward spiral. And I would like maybe to touch upon those verticals, which includes obviously nutrition, stress management, sports, and all that. So I think some people react differently to certain stimulus, but once we have that foundation, once we're able to, let's say, in my case, what I do is I really do pay attention to when I go to bed, because I know approximately now when I'm going to wake up naturally, rather than to put an alarm that wake me up.
Excellent.
So that would be something that would help the baseline, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely.
Once we have that, what's next?
We'll talk about foods.
For example, I think it's...
Yeah, food. So we spoken on part 1, I talked about digestion in general. So try not to eat. And this depends on you, the person. If you can go ahead and digest a whole steak right before bedtime, good on you.
I wish
too. So let's talk about what you need to eliminate, because we are better as humans to eliminate things. It's like that dad joke. Guy walks into a doctor's office, says, Doc, every time I drink a cup of coffee, my eye hurts. And the doctor says, well, you should take the spoon out of it first. So thanks for laughing, man. That's a dad joke. But,
I didn't remember this very old joke. And I was like, yeah, it's true.
But this is it's so simple. Unfortunately, our modern medical system and even our therapy sessions are all about adding and adding and adding.
Additive, yeah.
So the simplest thing is to take away. So first of all, take away just digestion, for example, and just leave about an hour of digestion before going to bed. Alcohol and CBD oil, unfortunately, they are sedatives. They are depressants. They are going to reduce sleep latency, which means you'll fall asleep faster.
So cannabis too?
Yeah, unfortunately, the latest research is showing that. So it does reduce stress. It does reduce sleep latency. Unfortunately, it reduces the amount of time that you spend in REM.
So it does affect deep sleep.
Yeah, same with alcohol. So try to metabolize that out of your body before going to bed. So go ahead. I'm not going to say don't drink or don't smoke, but try to do it earlier in the day.
But
Take up day drinking.
Because I think alcohol, I don't know about cannabis product, but I know about alcohol. I think it's more than 6 hours before your body really can.
It depends on how much you have, if you metabolize it quick. It depends on so many factors.
Okay. Yeah. But not ideal.
Not ideal, right? You want to avoid, obviously, excess caffeine. Again, 100% depending on you. Heavy foods, sugar because of your blood glucose controls. But let's talk about things that you should be eating more of during the day. So melatonin, which is the sleep hormone, what you need to do, comes from serotonin, the happy hormone. So the more serotonin you make during the day, the more melatonin you make when blue light is cut off, and the more melatonin, the deeper your sleep. So how do you get more serotonin in your brain? Serotonin comes from the essential amino acid tryptophan. So tryptophan, the more tryptophan that you have in your diet, tryptophan-rich foods, the more serotonin you produce. And the best source of tryptophan, Thanksgiving turkey, eggs, animal proteins.
Protein.
Exactly. Now, so it's tryptophan. So if you want to supplement with serotonin, the other word for serotonin is 5-hydroxytryptophan, because that's where it's made from. So the second thing you could eat is complex carbohydrates, things like sweet potatoes. I'm a fan of those rather than grains and legumes, from an ancestral Paleolithic kind of viewpoint. But let's not get into that. What happens? Well, number one, everyone loves carbs. That's more serotonin. Happy. More serotonin equals more melatonin. The reason why that Thanksgiving turkey makes you feel so tired is because of those carbs that will increase the absorption of tryptophan, specifically tryptophan, into the brain.
Okay.
More tryptophan in the brain, more serotonin, more melatonin. More melatonin, you're falling asleep after a good meat dinner.
But that's why also you want to leave enough time for you to digest it.
You do want to leave enough time to digest it.
Now I'm going to see the people right there saying, hey, I'm just going to buy melatonin at this point then.
No, don't buy melatonin.
Right? But that's my point, because they think, oh, if I eat that, but I don't feel like eating that, it's going to affect my serotonin. But then I really want to hack that and sleep.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
What's going to be the difference?
Melatonin, you make it yourself in your specific cycle and rhythm. If you're taking it exogenously, you're kind of like short-circuiting that cycle, that natural cycle.
It doesn't have the same effect. Exactly.
It doesn't have the same effect. It's not the right time. And, for me, I don't know but everyone's different. For me, I feel so groggy.
I tried.
Yeah.
The only time I'll take it is when I really want to hack my way into skipping some jet lag.
Yeah, or like massive insomnia.
But to really help me like regulate my sleep, it on the contrary, it didn't work.
What you want to do is supply all the building blocks that lead up to melatonin and allow your body all the tools it needs to make enough. So tryptophan leading to serotonin to melatonin, that's the way to go.
So protein,
complex carbohydrates, magnesium-rich foods. We know that magnesium as a supplement. Helps, so leafy greens is a great one as well for magnesium. Now, magnesium, from an ancestral point of view, there's 3 supplements that I highly recommend to my clients. That's vitamin D, because we're not outside enough. Yeah. Omega-3, because we're not eating enough fish and wild animals, and magnesium. And this is really interesting because magnesium is not evenly distributed in our soils.
And there's different types of magnesium too, right?
On the market, chelates. And what we want to look for is either magnesium glycinate or bisglycinate or threonate, because these ones end up in the brain or the nervous system and calms us down. Rather than milk of magnesia that gives us diarrhea and all those. But magnesium it's like a cofactor for so many enzymes, more than 350 enzymes. Okay. But it's critical for sleep as well. And the reason why I ask everyone to supplement is because, again, it's a mismatch between our modern agricultural systems and the way it used to be. So what we used to hunt were nomadic ungulates. Like deer, buffalo, muskox, whatever. And they would eat from a region, like grass from a region of high magnesium, and then end up in a region where there's low magnesium. We would hunt them, and then that's how we would attain our magnesium, even if we stayed in a low magnesium.
Okay.
So we don't hunt our animals anymore. They're all like, agriculture. So that's why we need to supplement with magnesium.
Very interesting. Anything else specifically associated with nutrition that would really help people? So magnesium, like you said, complex carbs, protein,
tryptophan, from
and an hour digesting. Usually if they already do that, it's going to be a good start.
It's a really good start. Yeah. And then to get into the whole supplements, to bridge it would be herbs. And we know things like chamomile, valerian, all these things, most of them contain apigenin, which is a compound, very common actually in the plant kingdom, but it reacts with the receptor for GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid, which is the universal inhibitor, nervous inhibitor. So it brings us down. So this is where we have this receptor, and then we have like a little place. It's called a PAM, positive allosteric modulator. And this is where benzodiazepines attach and make us feel tired. Well, apigenin does exactly the same thing. It goes inside that same little benzodiazepine slot and makes us feel tired. This is why chamomile tea works.
And I love my sleepy tea.
Yeah.
It works really well.
Yeah.
That's great. That's great. What else outside of sleep? I think routine is obviously very important.
Huge, yeah. Your brain loves routine, predictability, and we've seen consistently throughout the research that any kind of erratic sleeping patterns, aka sleeping in on the weekends, actually is a source of stress because there's a lack of pattern.
That's one thing I would like to touch upon, because we're talking sleep hack, and in my opinion, that goes without saying that it also comes with stress management.
Yeah.
You can have all the hack in the world if you're really stressed or going through a rough period. Your sleep will most likely be affected. What can help?
Oh, that's a good question. So a huge pain point for a lot of people is called rumination, overthinking. They're having a hard time falling asleep because their brain is just like
going.
Exactly.
Going, yeah.
And as I mentioned in part one, we were designed to deal with physical threats. And we have a lot of strategies to deal with physical stress. But today it's psychosocial stress. And how do you deal with emails that you forgot to send today? How do you so you start ruminating, right? Now the purpose, the evolutionary purpose of rumination is to find a solution. So say like all the other mammals, for example, a lion gets, chases a zebra. And the zebra is like fight or flight, but then escapes the lion, goes back to his herd, goes back to eating grass, and he's right back in his parasympathetic nervous system, and he's fine. If that happens to us, we'll be thinking about that all day. And right before going to bed, we're going to be replaying and replaying and replaying. We're like, oh, I should have done that, or I should have said that stupid line. I never knew that guy. He has it after me. I'm going to get him. But the thing is that the following day, the purpose of that is that you're going to find a solution. You're going to change your behavior. You're not going to take the same route the following day. You're going to take a weapon, whereas a zebra is going to do exactly the same thing day after day. Now, it's easy when the source of your threat is a lion, but it's not easy when I'm feeling overwhelmed. I don't want the support I need. Yeah. I'm in financial crisis. My marriage sucks. My boss hates me. All these kind of things. How do you fix that? And so if you ruminate and you're not able to find a solution, that's depression. If you think about it.
Yeah, you carry more and more on that.
If you don't see a way out of this, yeah, that's depression. That's basically, I don't see the use. I don't see a way out of this. So how do you do this? Now, this actually is my little critique on modern therapy, is that we need to find a solution. Even if it's not easy to see, you need to say I got to make a plan to fight or flight. Either address my situation, fix my environment, or get out of my environment.
So I can move on.
Exactly. And so journaling. Research shows that journaling is a powerful tool to make a plan on, even if it's 5 years from now, how to get out of it and what my plan is, and what my to-do list for tomorrow, and how did my day go, and what was on me and what was not on me, aka what was I in control of and able to change, and what was out of my control, because loss of sense of control is a massive source of stress for a lot of people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So journaling, box breathing, body awareness, all these tricks, they can help. But honestly, I'm fascinated with the research on journaling.
I love that. I love that. In my case, I've realized too that sports plays a big role in my capacity to just think. Because when you try to solve a complex problem, one, we only know what we know.
Yeah.
And two, we're often ill-equipped. And the only way we can go over that problem is to chop it into little pieces, like you said. So journaling, how am I going to get to the end point, one step at a time. Exercise probably also.
Let's touch on that, because this is a huge one. Did you know that upper body strength is associated with a lower prevalence of anxiety and depression?
Interesting.
So this is really interesting research. Why was that? Because we were designed to tackle physical adversity. Adversity means something that's not going well, right? So if we have strength, we are better able to contend with that physical adversity. Now, the human body, as well as the bodies of other animals, have the exact same reaction to a physical stress as a psychosocial stress. The increased heart rate, the tensed muscles, the clenched jaw, that's exactly the fight or flight, as if you were just, a bear walks into a room or Ewan McGregor comes in and says, I'm going to fight you. You're like, ooh, same reaction. But one is like, I see my danger. And the other one is,
I got to think it through.
Exactly. But it shows that even with more strength and more muscle mass, you can deal with psychosocial adversity as well. So this is a huge way to say everyone should be doing resistance exercises or lifting weights or doing push-ups or doing squats. I emphasize squats because I do squats in my presentations.
I know, and you know what? You have to experience it to really see the difference. And physical strain built not only help me sleep better, but build also a resilience, which, like you said, also affect your capacity to handle stress.
Absolutely. All sorts of stress.
There's a great analogy I've had, which is you can't control the amount of stress you'll have to deal with, but you do control the size of the container.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
The bigger the container, the better it is
take.
too. Yeah, the better it is too. Interesting. I would like to know more about your sleep routine. What are your secret weapons? And what does Dr. Patrick Owen, that spent so many years studying that, actually do?
Well, it's never perfect, when you have young kids and everything. But the sleep consistency is by far the most potent aspect. A cool room, a dark room. So the environment is really important. So we have light, which we talked about. Yep. We have temperature, which we talked about, but we didn't talk about sound. Did you know that pure silence is actually kind of a micro stressor? Think about camping at night. The night is never quiet. It's full of these like rhythmic, low sound waves, what we call pink noise, low frequency noises like insects, frogs.
Not gray noise. Pink noise.
It's called pink noise.
More like nature.
It's not like white noise, but it's like a lower frequency. It seems to have a better effect. A crackling fire, for example. So that brings us peace. And anyone who was waking up in the middle of a power outage understands that they'll wake up at the sudden disappearance of that noise.
True.
So you're off camping, right? You hear all the crickets and stuff, and all of a sudden they die out. Your cortisol, no matter where you are in your sleep cycle, your cortisol is going to pluck you out from your sleep cycle and say like,
there might be a danger.
Might be something. Yeah, you got to go check it out. So you wake up with one eye open, you go check it out consciously, assess for danger. No, we're good. We're going to go back to sleep. Then comes the alarm clock, a sudden loud noise. Basically, your cortisol yanks you out thinking like, oh my God, something's in our campsite. It's danger, danger, danger. Consciously it's your alarm clock. But yeah, that's exactly what happens. It's very stressful for the body. And when you press snooze, you're basically saying like, let's do that again. Which is why sleep consistency is so good. Because as you said, in the end, ultimately you won't need an alarm clock. Because the sun rises and your brain says, well, finish what I got to do. I knew exactly how much time I had to do it. Let's wake up.
That's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
So that's why sound can be important. So we do have a white noise machine that acts as a Pavlovian response. As soon as we hear it, we start sleeping, which is why a day at the beach is the waves and everything. Yeah. You're like, I don't know why I'm feeling so tired. So that's the environment. That's how it is. So it's sound, temperature, and light.
Any accessories people should have in their home with them, on them. I think the application or the function to have sleep mode on our modern phone is definitely a plus.
Yeah.
Like you said, reducing blue light. We talked about that on previous episode. Anything else that you use in your routine that makes a difference?
Yeah. So at the opposite end of the spectrum, these long wavelengths are red. So red is relaxing, aka make your room a modern fire-lit room, candlelight, or we have, red lights as well. These things can really reduce sleep latency and improve the quality of your sleep. So red light is really, really an important hack. Weighted blankets gives you the sense, mimics the safety of having other people around. Remember, children having their own rooms, only originated in the 1900s. across cultures and throughout history, we've always co-slept. So feeling secure is really, really important in the morning. You talked about phones. Some people, now the research is a little controversial, but listen, if it's free and it's fine, whatever, is EMFs, electromagnetic frequencies. Some people seem to have
sensitivity.
Exactly. And do have clients who just taken their phone out of their bedroom. They say like, yeah, you know what? I feel it. You may not feel it. I might not feel it. But for some people who are very sensitive, and studies show that, yeah, you put a cell phone inside of a rat cage, after 2 weeks, their melatonin levels go down and down. Could it be that the pineal gland is mistaking these shortwave frequencies for blue light?
Yeah.
We don't know, but I have a client who was so affected by this that he started off with airplane mode, then phone outside the bedroom, then shutting off the modem, and then he went full on and built himself a Faraday cage around his bedroom. Best sleep. And this guy was an insomniac since he was a teenager.
Are you serious?
So yeah, he became a conspiracy theorist. Bless his heart.
At this point, we often judge the people with a foil hat, right?
Yeah.
But
it works for
in
them.
my case, I'm blessed. It doesn't change anything. I've tried it.
Yeah.
I didn't see a difference, but I've heard many stories where people do react differently to electronics.
Same. I don't know if it's psychosomatic or placebo, whatever, but if it works, it works. Yeah. You're not hurting anybody. So all these different hacks are trying to really mimic an ancestral sleeping pattern. All of that. Grounding sheets, a lot of people associated with EMFs as well. Blackout curtains, obviously. These are the different tools that we have. One that's really, really interesting is temperature controlled pads that you put underneath. Yeah. Because everyone's, one person likes it cool, one person likes it hot kind of thing. And I've seen these kind of things save marriages, actually.
That's crazy.
So yeah, there's a lot of things that you can go out there. Some of them you find useless for you, but some of them can be life-changing. So my recommendation is, try them. And if they're not too expensive, they're not hurting anybody, and they're not hurting yourself,
give it a try.
Give it a try.
So to resume, it's really to establish that foundation.
Yeah.
That stability.
Yeah.
And
behavior.
then we can start introducing, supplements, nutrition, exercise, over and above that routine, limit our blue light exposure, red light exposure before bedtime. Anything else in particular that you say would be also something important to consider when someone is trying to improve the quality of his sleep?
It's what you do during the day. I think I've mentioned this all the time, is that happy people sleep the best. Why? Serotonin. The more serotonin you have during the day, the more melatonin at night. So anything. And my number one go-to is sunlight.
True.
So if you can get some morning sunlight exposure, that's the best. If you can go take a walk with your dog, get some walking outside, some exercise outside whenever you can. Yeah, exactly. All that's going to help you sleep better at night.
So that qualitative component, I think we've touched upon.
Yeah.
One of the many questions about sleep that always come back in the top searches on Google is 6 hours sleep enough? Is 5 hours sleep enough? Quantity. So if we were to go with this ideal scenario where we do control the quality component we just talked about, what would be an ideal quantity, or how one would be able to find out what is the right quantity of sleep for themselves?
That's a really good question, and it's very personal, and it really takes first consistency. But then you're talking about genetics. Then you got a person who can thrive on 4 hours of sleep, and good on you. The majority of us can't, right? But if you're a person who needs 7 or 8 hours, it is possible to reduce that with consistency, because your sleep cycles can be compressed to a certain degree, not too much. We all have our limits. Yeah. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have people who just can't function unless they get 9 hours of sleep. So it really is so dependent on who you are, your chronotype, and also it's hormonal, it's genetic, it's so many things, right? Do you nap during the day? All these kind of things need to be considered, but my general answer is you can compress it to a certain degree.
Yeah. Does the technology we have access to today, such as smartwatches, rings, monitoring devices, precise enough to analyze these cycles?
Yeah, I don't know, because then we're talking about precision versus accuracy. But if you're going to use one method, stick with it. Then you can figure out the quality in there. But is it like actually accurate? Honestly, I'm not 100% sure.
So it's more of a try it yourself, see how you react over time. A
tracking tool, to see, you got
journal
a baseline.
how you feel that specific day.
Well, that's my thing, is like, if you have a lot of energy during the day and you feel restored and good levels, like you got it. You're keyed in. So that's my. It's not the number of hours of sleep. It's how you feel restored.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing. Dr. Patrick Owen, thank you so much for these amazing tips. If people have questions or would like to reach out to you, you have a website. You're also available on LinkedIn. So I think the website is drpatrickowen.com.
Yes, sir. That's it.
Pretty simple. Thank you so much. It's always great to have you here. And hopefully I'll see you fairly soon at a conference or on another podcast.
Oh, yeah. We're going to see each other for sure again. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.